Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day. In today's episode, we're going back to the Nether to take on that Nether Fortress, but first, I need to grab a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to bring a stack of gold ingots with me, and we might come back to get more gold in a minute. We're also going to grab a few logs, and I'll grab an iron ingot so that I can make myself another shield. And if you're wondering why my axe has lost so much durability, it's because I spend a bunch of time on my Twitch streams every week chopping wood or gathering materials, so that's why my axe is looking a little bit the worse for wear right now. Anyway, with a stack of logs, some gold, and a replacement shield, we are headed through to the Nether. But we're not going to take on the Nether Fortress we found the other day. Instead, I'm going to head right from my portal, cross at this cobblestone bridge that we made, and we're going to head back to the first Nether Fortress we ever saw. And along the way, I have realized that I'm wearing full diamond now, so the piglins are going to have an issue with me. So luckily, some of the gold ingots I brought can be turned into a gold helmet. Now, if memory serves, we saw the outline of a Nether Fortress in the distance over this way. We kind of saw the shape of it whilst we were bartering with piglins. There we go. Over here in the distance are those pillars, and we're going to investigate those first. But bartering with piglins is actually something I want to do quickly beforehand. This piglin here with the gold boots is going to be our candidate, and we're going to give them some gold, and I'll probably dig a hole in the ground here so that this piglin stays in one place. And from throwing them a bunch of gold ingots, they're going to throw me a variety of things, like crying obsidian to start off with. They've thrown me some nether brick, which is actually what the blocks of the fortress around us are made out of. We can turn those into a full block of nether bricks. We've got some leather. What I'm really looking for is potions of fire resistance. And those are a relatively rare item to receive from bartering with piglins like this, but they are going to be the most useful in getting us through this nether fortress. The fire charge, I'm probably just going to put down over there. There we go. At last we got one. Okay, so this is a 3-minute potion of fire resistance, which is going to be very helpful at tackling an environment like the nether. Just going to make sure this ghast doesn't interfere with what I have planned, and it looks like the piglin also traded me some spectral arrows, which incidentally aren't compatible with the infinity enchantment. Any arrows that aren't standard basic arrows will still be used up when you use them with a bow. It just used that arrow because it was the first one in my inventory, so if I want to use regular arrows, I should just put those in the top left, and then we'll never use anything else. But the spectral arrows apply a glowing effect to anything they hit, and in that case, it didn't last very long because the ghast died immediately. So after throwing him a handful of gold, this piglin has traded me a few more things. We've got a little bit more nether brick, which I'm just going to turn into full blocks, because we'll be getting some of those in a second anyway. We got some crying obsidian, some blackstone, some gravel, the spectral arrows, and a bit of leather. But in this case, we'll take one fire resistance potion, and we'll see how far we get with that. Our first step, really, since we're down here low on the ground, is to find a way into this nether fortress. So I think we're probably going to try and bridge out to this section of the parapet here. And that's one of the reasons I brought so many building blocks with me, is because I want to create a staircase of sorts, and I figure we might as well do that using wood, since we have a decent amount of that. So I'm just going to create a quick staircase over here. We're going to bridge out to that, and we are in. We get a terrible fortress advancement for stepping into a nether fortress for the first time. Now I'm going to use silk touch to get through this glowstone right here, avoid the ghasts as they shoot at me. And once we reach this point here, we are inside the fortress. So nether fortresses have two distinct sections. There is an inside and an outside. The outer area typically doesn't have a roof over your head, whereas the inside area does. And the transition between those two is this room here with a lava well in the center. Now this isn't anything special. We can collect the lava here, and it turns out it's just like a column of nether bricks, but we can place the lava back in there. This is a really good way of telling whether you are in the right place or not, because there is some stuff we want to get from the outside of the nether fortress, and there is some stuff we're looking for on the inside. The inside hallways are going to be fairly dark, so we'll light them with torches as we go, and these can contain loot chests that will contain some pretty useful resources. We're also looking for a room that has a staircase with open sides around it, like this one right here, and I'll check around just to make sure there isn't going to be anything attacking us, because there are some potentially dangerous mobs here in the nether fortress, but this is what we're looking for. This is Nether Wart, which grows on the soul sand blocks that we can find elsewhere in soul sand valleys. If we grab this, this is one of the first essential ingredients that we will need to brew our own potions. The other essential ingredients we will need I can actually hear right now, but not see, and it may be because they've spawned on the roof of the structure up there. Yep, there is one in a corridor up here, so sometimes if you come up here, the nether terrain will have interfered with the generation of the fortress. We're just going to silk touch a few of these gold ore blocks, which is going to get the piglins angry at us, but I don't think they can reach us right now. And we're going to walk in and attack these blazes. Now, blazes will shoot fireballs at you, as we've discovered in previous episodes, but a couple of quick critical hits should bring the blazes down, and they will drop blaze rods. So right now, since I have looting 2 on my sword, I have 5 blaze rods. Really lucky to have got that amount, but of course looting is helping us along with that. Now, blaze rods are actually a really versatile crafting ingredient. They can go into potion brewing stands, they can be broken down into blaze powder, which is used for a variety of things, or blaze rods can be used as fuel in furnaces if you have enough of them. But it looks like this corridor ends here, so I'm going to place a few more torches just so we know where we have been, and I am thankful that there are only a couple of blazes in here. Around the corner here, we reach another dead end where the nether terrain takes over, so it doesn't look like that's worth exploring any further. And as we get down in here, you'll notice that this is another maze-like structure. The fortress can go on in various different directions, and it never generates in exactly the same way. But it will be made out of some of the same components, the same intersections and staircases, so a lot of the times you're just looking for the right jigsaw piece that fits. Now, there are 3 chests in this section of corridors, and thankfully there is nothing following us around. There aren't any hostile mobs that seem to be out to get us. So we're going to take a look in these. We have found another smithing template. This is the rib armor trim, and that's one that I'm quite interested in using, actually, so we'll grab that. There's also a saddle here. The next chest contains 2 diamonds, which is a really useful find, and a couple more gold ingots that we might use to barter with piglins. I will come back for the horse armor later, but that's not my highest priority right now. And this contains another horse armor, this time a golden one, a little bit more Nether Wart in the chest just in case you can't find a staircase, and some more iron ingots. So while these chests aren't necessarily crucial, they do sometimes contain Nether Wart, which if you can't find one of these staircases generating in your fortress, can be a good backup. The armor trim is unique to Nether Fortress structures, so I'm very happy to have acquired one of those. And there's obviously a couple of nice loot items like the gold ingots, the iron, and the diamonds. The remaining corridor of this forks in 3 different directions, but all of them reach dead ends. So one of the things I'm going to do is block this off using a bunch of planks. We'll probably just do that across the center of the corridor there, and it's lit up, so hopefully we shouldn't have any mob spawns inside. Now, we can go up this staircase, and you'll see that there's another blaze resting up there on the roof. We'll take a quick look around, and there are a couple more chests in this corridor that'd be worth checking out. I can also see some through there. So let's quickly take a look in that. There are 3 horse armors in that one, and that's it. So that's once again something that I'm not going to take with me, since the horse armors do not stack. This chest right here contains another gold ingot, a gold sword, which is fairly useless to us, and some horse armor. It seems like a blaze just went to our right. Yes, so I'm going to quickly jump out and take care of that. Grab a couple more blaze rods. And I'm being a little more cautious now because I heard the sound effects, and you can see it in the subtitles there as well, of a wither skeleton rattling around. Looks like we're safe to collect the contents of this chest, which is a bunch more iron ingots. There's another saddle there. We're going to leave that stuff for now. Seems like our wither skeleton might be on the roof, so I'm not too worried about that for the moment, but I'm checking around these corners carefully in case we run into one. Nope, looks like we're in the clear. Okay, one more chest to check. That's a bit more gold. Okay, so we haven't encountered those wither skeletons, and as I said, I suspect they are up there on the roof where the fortress kind of wraps around on itself. So I think it's probably time to leave this area of the fortress. I think we've explored everything we can from here, but on the way out, I've noticed a wither skeleton. So the easiest defense against these guys is to build 3 blocks across here, just above head height for the player, but wither skeletons, like Enderman, are over 2 blocks tall. They're actually 3 block tall mobs, so if you build a bar like this 3 blocks up off the ground, they won't be able to attack you through it, and they'll actually kind of get idle and confused, and then come back to see if they can attack you. We're going to take this guy out because if you end up getting hit by a wither skeleton, they not only hit very hard, but they inflict this wither status effect, which is like poison, except if you run out of health, it can actually kill you instead of leaving you on half a heart. Right now, it won't do a great deal of damage to me because I've got a pretty decent amount of protection on this armor, and the armor rating is helping with that a little as well. But it's important to know how to deal with wither skeletons, because if you're unprepared or unprotected, they will hit pretty hard. There are a few balconies as part of Nether Fortress generation as well, but those don't typically lead anywhere. Instead, we're going to go somewhere that does lead somewhere. We're going to cross over the lava well and head to the outside section of the Nether Fortress, because it's here we're going to find something that we have needed from this place. On the way, we're going to encounter another wither skeleton, and we're going to get hit by that guy, but it's fine. We can at least deal with him. And another blaze, and we're going to block the fireballs with the shield, which is why I needed to prepare another shield before we came out here. If a blaze is firing at you like this, blocking with a shield is always an option as long as you've got one on you. I'm basically going to let the durability on this shield run out so that we can have a bit more inventory space, but then I'm happy that we've brought another one along with us. If the Nether Fortress generates inside of terrain, some mobs can end up on the surface of the terrain as well, so you'll sometimes find them prowling around nearby biomes like this, so be wary of that as you explore. But this fortress is actually kind of convoluted. It wraps back around on itself, and we're looking for a very specific room in this place. We'll break up through this glowstone, but it looks like the fortress kind of stops here, so don't need to worry about this direction. I'm hearing the sound of blazes all around us, but it seems like they have just generated up there amid the netherrack. We might be going to see a couple of those in a second here. Yep, there's one of them. Happy to get a couple more blaze rods from that guy, but you'll notice the Nether Fortress stretches off into the netherrack here. And we're going to check to either side as we go. Okay, going to block with the shield once again to take care of this fireball, and the staircase in front of us is really what we are looking for. You'll notice if you look carefully, I'll use the spyglass so I can check it out from a distance, there is another monster spawner in there, and that is a blaze spawner. So this is really what we've been looking for as we come into the Nether Fortress, because an area that continuously spawns blazes for these blaze rods is going to be vital to a couple of things we need to do in the future. As I said, not only are blaze rods and blaze powder crucial for potion brewing, but they can also be used to create the items that are going to help us find the Stronghold and access the final dimension of Minecraft, the end dimension. So we're going to spend a bit more time hanging around this blaze spawner, and there goes my shield, exploding into particles. Well, we do have another shield that we brought with us, but we also have this bottle of fire resistance that was given to us by bartering with that piglin. So that's another option if you're dealing with a blaze spawner like this. We can drink the potion, and that will give us 3 minutes of the fire resistance effect, and that means that anytime these blazes want to shoot fireballs at us, it's going to have no effect. It's not even going to deal any melee damage. Blazes can deal melee damage if you get close up to them though, so it's worth keeping that in mind if you're hanging around this spawner for too long. I can also open my inventory to keep an eye on the timer on that fire resistance potion, because I don't want to be without fire resistance for very long here. You'll also find that the blazes leave fire wherever the fireballs don't hit a player. They will often hit a block, and that block will be set ablaze, so be careful if you drop anything around here. Any items that come into contact with that fire are likely to burn and be destroyed. That even includes the blaze rods that the blazes themselves will drop. We have 30 seconds or so of fire resistance left, and thanks to having looting 2 on my sword, we have 40 blaze rods. We're doing very, very well. Now, just like any other monster spawner, this blaze spawner will become inactive once we are 16 blocks or more away from it, so once we're done here, we don't really need to worry about lighting this thing up. We can just walk away from it. And as we walk away, I'm going to check down these corridors to either side, because it's always possible that another blaze spawner will have appeared here. If you end up with 2 of them in very close proximity to each other, then that can be a really neat way to farm experience, since blazes drop quite a lot of it. Blazes will spawn throughout the rest of the fortress as well, so don't worry if you have difficulty locating the spawner. You will probably be able to encounter a couple of them as you're walking around. But it looks like the second blaze spawner in this fortress is actually out here in the open, which is really a more dangerous environment to encounter blazes, since they're able to fly, and often when you're fighting them at one of these spawners, they will fly up into the air to try and avoid you, and that leads to them flying over the edge of the Nether Fortress or getting stuck on a block up there, and since they're ranged mobs, they can fireball you from a distance, and all you can do is retaliate with the bow. It looks like the wither skeletons have come out to play as well, but thankfully, this naturally formed formation of glowstone is something that I can escape behind. So we're going to kill off a couple more of those, pick up the bones and the coal that they drop. So don't worry too much about how much coal you're using as fuel. You'll always be able to get more of it from wither skeletons, and obviously, you know, charcoal exists as well. But for now, we're going to try and make our way out of this fortress, making sure that we can create those 3 high bars of material above the corridors, just to make sure that we don't have to worry too much about wither skeleton attacks. For now, though, we're going to make for the staircase that let us into this place through the Crimson Forest area where hoglins are all over the place. Back past that lava well that indicates we're going to the inside of the fortress. But then we're going to turn left, we're going to come out towards the staircase that we built, and we should probably take out this ghast just in case. And killing that, it drops a ghast tier, which I'm going to swap for these 2 blocks of netherrack, since netherrack is everywhere and we can get it any time. Ghast tiers are also an ingredient ingredient used in potion brewing, which we'll be doing a bit of now that we have access to blaze rods. So that was a pretty successful visit to that Nether Fortress over there. We're going to return to the overworld and drop off all of our stuff. And once we've done that, we're going to return to the Soul Sand Valley Nether Fortress that we got our Desert Temple portal to, and I'll explain why I didn't go to that one first. Alright, back in the overworld. It's dark, but at least it's not raining. And I'll drop off anything from the nether that we've already encountered so we can talk about the stuff that's new. So to quickly summarize, spectral arrows we got from bartering with the piglins. We also got some nether brick that we can turn into nether bricks, the material that the Nether Fortress is made out of. Inside the Nether Fortress, we are able to get some Nether Wart and some blaze rods from fighting those blazes, and those two are crucial for the process of starting to brew potions. We got a ghast tear as a potion brewing ingredient, and we are able to get the rib armor trim from the Nether Fortress chests. As before, we can reproduce that with diamonds, and this one, I believe, will need a piece of nether brick to reproduce. It looks like the nether brick is what it's made out of, but it looks like that's not the case. So now that we've acquired this, we can at least look up a rib armor trim in here and see what the crafting recipe actually calls for. It's a piece of netherrack. Okay, well, that was the other option. So if you want to spend your diamonds on reproducing that, you can. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now, but I will show you what that looks like in the smithing table. We'll add that to the diamond chest plate. Maybe we'll add some diamond ribs to it, like so, and as you can see, it's a darker pattern that wraps around the armor from the sides, which I think is quite a nice, subtle look to it. I'm not going to add that right now, though, since it would consume our smithing template, and I want to reproduce that before we do anything with it. But since we gathered so much material from making that tunnel back, I actually started a second barrel here with some of the nether goodies, and we're going to leave those in here for now. We'll come back to soul sand and growing nether wart in an episode about potion brewing that I'm sure we'll end up doing at some point in the near future. For now, this rib smithing template is going with our other smithing template collection, and we're going to go back to the nether to explore that second nether fortress. Although it seems like to do that, we're going to have to fight our way past an army of magma cubes. But once we're safely down the tunnel and have tangled with a couple of skeletons, we'll find ourselves returning to the area of this nether fortress. And as you can already see, this fortress is a lot more active than the other one that we found. It's also a little bit harder to get to, considering that we're down here at ground level and there are lava lakes all around us. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the nether brick from here, and we're going to build a staircase up the side here to enter the fortress from this angle. We'll carve our own little staircase up into here, and okay, we are into the fortress. And I mostly didn't want to make the staircase out of wood blocks because of the amount of blazes that are around. One immediate problem is that this zombified piglin is blocking the way to these blazes, and the blazes are thankfully having their fireballs stopped by the piglins, so we can at least carve our way through here and collect that blaze rod. But the fortress, as I mentioned, seems a lot more active. There are a lot more mobs just kind of milling around out here on the parapets. Just taking a look at the silhouette across here, you'll notice there are blazes and wither skeletons all over the place, which is a very good thing for us in the long term. But right now, with no additional fire resistance potions, this feels very open and very scary. There isn't really anywhere to hide from these blaze fireballs, and blazes will shoot you from a very long distance away. Basically, if you can see them, they can shoot you. One of the other absolutely wild things about this fortress, though, is that it doesn't seem to have an inside. I reached this lava well room, and I came out over here, and it looks like that just gets cut off by the parapet section wrapping its way back around. So there are no Nether Fortress chests to be found in here. This section out here just leads to a series of dead ends. The entire thing is exterior walkways. So even after studying it briefly, I noticed that that was going to be a problem, so you can understand why I didn't come here right away. But really, it's the sheer amount of hostile mobs that are spawning here which is going to make this an intimidating challenge for anybody who is new to Nether Fortresses. When Minecraft spawns hostile mobs, it will check an area around the player. Basically, in a 128 block radius of the player, that's where the game will try to spawn mobs. And some of Minecraft's biomes have very specific rules about how those mobs are spawned. Soul Sand Valleys are a primary example of this. They will typically spawn skeletons and ghasts, but no other mobs will spawn here. You won't find zombie piglins wandering around here unless they've wandered in from another biome. But likewise, you won't find wither skeletons wandering around the average biome either. They will only generate where there is a nether fortress, because mob spawns can also be tied to structures. Now, the maximum number of hostile mobs that the game will generate around the player is something like 70. And normally you won't end up in a situation where you can see all 70 mobs spawning at once, because in the overworld, you're on the surface and there are caves below you for 128 blocks, and so a lot of mobs are going to be spawning in those caves. You might only have to handle 3 or 4 of them at a time on the surface. Now, in other nether biomes, you'll notice that the mob cap mostly gets taken up by zombified piglins. They're basically everywhere. Or in a crimson forest, you'll find that piglins and hoglins take up the majority of it. The first Nether Fortress we visited didn't generate too many enemies because it was in a Crimson Forest biome, and so there were lots of other things spawning in the area already. But you can imagine if you're in a Soul Sand Valley, the prospect of the game spawning 70 ghasts is going to be a little intense. So what they've done is reduce the amount of spawns that happen in a Soul Sand Valley biome. But Nether Fortresses are a structure with their own spawning rules, and they're unaffected by the biome that they are in. So if you come to a Soul Sand Valley where there are a limited number of hostile mob spawns, you will find that a lot more hostile mobs spawn in a Nether Fortress if one generates there. Which is why every time I come here to use the portal that goes out to the desert, I see all of these wither skeletons patrolling the parapet, and I'm immediately fireballed by like a dozen blazes. So this Nether Fortress is a special case, and one which we will definitely return to, because later on we'll be looking to get the skulls of these wither skeletons to summon a boss called the Wither. And if you've been lucky enough while you've been fighting your way around these Nether Fortresses, especially if you have a looting sword, you might have got hold of one of those already. But for today, we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to bookmark this Nether Fortress as something pretty special, but something incredibly dangerous, and we're going to head back home to the overworld. Alright folks, that's enough Nether for one day, at least enough Nether Fortresses for me right now. They're always slightly scary, especially when you are not fully equipped, and by fully equipped, I mean having more fire resistance potions. But if you want a quick sneak peek at what tomorrow's episode is going to be, I'm going to take you over this way to something I discovered on a live stream not too long ago. You see, I decided this was going to be Structures Week, and there's this little snowy patch around here which has an unfamiliar structure. It is not all that often you find an igloo in a flower forest, but if I am right about this igloo, we have a chance to stumble onto something pretty special. But we're going to save that for tomorrow's episode, so thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care, bye for now.